All right, it looks like we're back. Looks like we made it.
Yeah, hey, here we are.
It's amazing.
Yeah, episode 7.
7.
Yeah.
If we were superstitious, would we say this was auspicious? This was a good thing?
Well, it's a good number, isn't it? Number 7. It's been a good number throughout the ages, somehow.
What's the best thing that ever happened to you that has the number 7 involved?
I'm trying to think. I remember the Striper record. Wasn't there a Striper record called 777?
By Striper, you mean the Christian rock band from the 80s?
Yeah, but they were kind of a cross band. Like they had success kind of on both sides. They were one of those bands that, for those of you that don't know, I used to be in that world, a Christian rock band, when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19. And so that's what Randall Lobb is referring to. But Striper was one of those bands that had a lot of controversy with people that were in the quote-unquote the fold, because they were, trying to play both sides, I guess is how it was.
So they were like kind of like the bisexual of Christian bands.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
But to me, they were like an inspiration in that regard, even though maybe I wasn't a huge fan of their music. But I was inspired by their antics.
By the antics.
Yeah, at the time.
I love antics. Well, as interesting as Striper is, I didn't think that we would talk about Striper today, but it does come up in what we were going to talk about, I think.
What, are we talking about bees?
Yeah, that's right. And the different kind of patterns that are on animals. I thought we could talk about that today.
Interesting.
Like some animals have like spots.
Yeah.
And some have stripes.
Yeah.
And then some have like other kinds of patterns.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
Okay, that was a great podcast. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Animals have different markings.
Yeah, I had never even thought of that before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Striper, back to the Striper thing, that was a thing, like a bump. They were like dressed like bumblebees.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, and that was where the name Striper. And then, of course, there was the religious connotation, which was Isaiah 53, I think, by his stripes,
oh my God,
we are healed.
I just said, oh my God, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
People. Listen, here's what I want to, every time we have a podcast, we need to have a subject matter to story out of, riff the stories off. Today, everybody's watching you adjust
that's all right,
your little mic. I think that's good. It opens the process up and lets the people in. You know what I mean?
That's right. It's kind of like what we're doing with Boyne December. It's just like, here it is.
It is, isn't it?
It's just raw.
And we're letting people watch us drink tea.
That's right.
Watch this. And they can hear me swallow. What I wanted to talk about today was linked to, who we are. So last time we talked about technology, and we were saying that it got us to a place, or it was useful for something, and then we talked about how it pulled us out of our childhoods in a way, or played a role. But what I want to talk about today is jobs.
Interesting.
Because people might say, who are those two guys, and why would I listen to them do anything? Why? Like, what is the?
Yeah.
Why are we here? What are we?
Right, and we wonder the same thing. Who would listen to two middle-aged guys chatting just really about normal things in their lives?
There's some kind of assumption that we must be making, and I don't think this would be arrogance to say. We clearly think that we're interesting enough that we deserve for people to listen to us. Would you not say?
Yeah, I don't know if it's arrogance. I think it's also that we've just made this decision that it doesn't matter, really. I mean, if people listen or not, we're just going to do this because we talk anyway, and we might as well record our conversation.
Because they're so good.
Because they're so amazing.
They're so awesome.
Yeah. As you all know. And no, we're not arrogant.
I don't think I'm arrogant.
Oh, no.
I think people think that I'm arrogant because I don't have the same concerns about some of the same things that other people might have.
I understand that completely. I can remember being branded as arrogant, for that very reason, mostly because things didn't bother me the same way, and usually because right. I was quiet when there's a lot of drama going on. I'd just be quiet and just kind of almost look nonchalant, and people would say, "Are you above this?
Yeah, don't you care about this?
Don't you care?
Why are you so arrogant?
Do you think you're above this?" And it's like, no, I don't actually.
I would usually say I'm below it.
Yeah.
It's above me. Yeah. I'm the reverse of arrogance. I wouldn't say that means unconfident, but in my case, it was like, I would think if someone would argue and I would say my opinion, they would say their opinion. When I was a kid, I would have a certain amount of fire. I'm going to argue back. But when you get confident, you say, okay, you can say that. That's fine. And I can say what I say, and it doesn't matter. Your opinion doesn't threaten me in any way, and mine doesn't threaten you in any way.
Right.
Except that you would privately be thinking that the other person was dumb. Sorry to put my hand in front of the camera. So the thing that I think we need to figure out, or we need to try and puzzle out, is how did we get to the place where we have a name like this FauxPop? How did we get to you having all these computers? And
Sure.
what's the path? What's this, like, what is your job there? Talk about your job and how you got there. Where did you start?
Well, my job is multifaceted. I mean, everything that I know how to do has come out of a dream, or out of trying to fulfill the dream of doing creative things. Right from the get-go. When we talked about technology last week, and I'm thinking of when computers came along, not just to continue on that thought just a little bit, but I can recall doing the music for a sound musical at the high school when I was in high school. And I created the score using an old Atari computer and MIDI notes, right? And that transformed my life. I can remember that actually transformed my life. It made me realize I can actually pull out of my head the things I'm hearing and create sound using this tool. So as time went on, that really actually solidified it, that I want to get into recording. I want to work on music this way. I was already playing music in a band.
What was the play like? What was the kind of soundtrack that you made?
It was like, there was Jesus Christ Superstar. There was Joseph and His Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So it was.
I remember that show.
Yeah, I was replicating that stuff, and that really solidified. Look at the need for technology. So you're asking why I have all these screens around me. Well, really,
well, I guess I'm not really asking that. I'm asking that you are a person right now who thinks you're doing something, or because of whatever you did, you're doing something. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think you're doing? How did you get to what you're doing? Kind of.
Well, what I think I'm doing, and that's part of what we're doing right now, is trying to build some kind of platform using technology, using the tools we have, to get. The message isn't the right word, but it's like you have all of this stuff inside that you just want to share.
And that started when you were a kid.
That started when I was a kid.
Well, tell me about that.
Always
tell me about your mother.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've always, as much as maybe it's even with fear sometimes, but I've always enjoyed being on a platform, and either speaking or singing or performing, or getting things out there for people to check out, mostly to try to stir up some kind of thought or controversy or whatever. Even
when you're a little tadger.
Yeah, even when I was young. And so that has definitely been an underlying thing throughout my life. That's caused me to gather the tools that I need, and as I gathered those tools and use them not only for myself, but then my brothers and sister who we started doing things together, it got to a point where I had a skill set that I could share with other people. And
you were in a family band, you should say that.
Yeah, so initially with Silence, and now Boy in December, which is still going. Everything that I learned to do came out of a need to do it for those creative outlets.
So the job that you actually have isn't because you wanted to have that job. You wanted to have the end result of what that job would create.
Correct.
But now here you are, the guy who can do that for other people who need to do that.
Yeah, and I think that became a problem like about 10 years ago, because I got so busy doing it for other people.
Right.
Because I'm good at it. And there's not too many things, and again, this isn't arrogance, but there's not too many things I can't. If someone says, hey, can you do that? I'm one of those guys that'll say, yeah, I could do it, and then go figure it out.
Well, you always say that you can do that.
Yeah.
And you then go and learn how to do it, and sometimes you get stuck, and then you wish that you had said no.
Or
you maybe should have said no.
Yeah, not because I'm in over my head per se. It's just more the time.
The time sink.
The time sink.
And then you lose the ability to do the thing that you want to do.
Yes, and that's been a common problem.
Well, were you one of those people that when you were a kid, people would be saying to you, "Oh, you're going to be a blank," and then it would be like something like, "You're going to be," I don't even know. What did they tell you? What was assumed?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think because I was pretty.
I think we established last podcast that I come up with really good questions.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And I'm having to think about that for a second. I know that, like, I didn't get a lot of that from my peers because I was usually, and the reason being is I was usually pretty isolated and quiet. I didn't put myself out there to where people could,
figure out that you weren't like somebody else.
I think that, there was times in high school I was playing music in the cafeteria per se. And I had a history teacher that he was very, very encouraging, and it was great because me and a bunch of guys had a U2 cover band in high school. And
what was the name of that band?
We didn't have a name for it.
Should have called it Us Two.
Yeah, the Us Two. And we would, because our history class was also over lunch hour, he would let us go and play instead of doing history class. And
Nice.
So I think obviously putting myself out there that way, and I still get people. I had someone a couple weeks ago that said, "Hey, you're that Mark Hussey. I remember back in high school you playing With or Without You on stage, and I'd never heard anybody play it and sound as close to the real thing as then." So having that creative outlet back in that time, I think there was some encouragement, obviously, from peers to say, "Man, you're a good singer. Or you should play music, or you're gonna."
Were you looking for ladies? Let's be honest.
No, not at that time of my life, for sure.
It had nothing to do with women.
Absolutely
girls.
not. No, it was more, and it still is. It's more about that need and desire to share thoughts with as many people as possible.
So you're not doing this right now to get chicks?
No.
Are you sure?
I don't think so. If I was, I'd probably do my hair. I'd probably care a little more,
I'm kind of disappointed because I thought that was one of the things that we were doing.
Well,
are there not like podcasting groupie women who are like, "Oh, look at these guys with their podcast. It's so awesome." And then they kind of follow us around. That's not going to happen is what you're saying, in effect.
Well, it quite possibly could.
I guess
stranger things have happened.
There's still a chance.
Yeah, there's still a chance for sure.
I guess the fact that not even my wife wants to listen to this or watch it would be like a sign that it's not going to work out, maybe like we thought.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, maybe if the fact that we have wives would make it so that we shouldn't have groupies.
Yeah, probably should. Yeah. Probably true. And
or if we do have them, we just have to kind of.
Or maybe the fact that we have wives at all is because we're such rock stars.
Well,
to begin with.
Ironically, that's how I met my wife.
Yeah, well, there we go. Tell your story about that.
That particular story?
Yeah. How did you meet your wife, and how did that relate to your creativity at the time?
I don't think you could use the word creativity in that conversation because I was the exact opposite of you. You had something that you were trying to share with everybody, and you had some message and you wanted to impact people. I did not have that message. I just wanted to make people laugh or, I don't know, say, that guy's funny or whatever. I don't know. It was all about the impact or effect for me. It's very selfish, I think.
Yeah, and even though I may come across in how I'm saying that as it sounding to be, noble and all that, I think deep down, all of us have to admit that it's selfish. You're
not getting enough time at the teat, so you grow up and you want more teat time.
Yeah.
And I don't say that like actual teats. I don't want more teat time. That's not worded correctly. I was breastfed, I think, the correct amount. And it was stopped at the right time.
Right.
I think, we all agree that when it ends, it's the time to end and to move on and eat solid food. And I'm happy that I eat solid food now. So I have no complaints for people that are worried about that. I think I'm probably the kind of person who said, "Look at me, Mom, look at me, watch me, Mom, look at me." And I'm still kind of saying, "Look at me, Mom, watch, Only it's not my mom now because
Right.
she's obviously looked enough. She's had enough. Now I say it to other people. Hey, look at me. But it's not that ironically, when people look, or if after I was to do something, someone would come up and say, hey, that was a really good job, I feel embarrassed.
Right.
Like I only want it for the time that it's happening. I don't want it after it's done.
I can relate to that. Totally.
Yeah. So I remember being a little kid and being in well, I can tell you it's in my book. The exact first time that I remember really feeling it strongly is I was in kindergarten, and we had a teacher named Mrs. Williams, and I don't know how old she would have been, but to me she was about 1,000,008, and she left the class for whatever reason. And I remember another teacher had come to the door and they were talking and they were giggling, or there was something about the way they were talking that was jolly.
Right.
And it made me feel like when I was a little kid, I was very sensitive to the feelings around me, that like I would always feel like there's almost like a temperature of feelings in the place that I was. So like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I would be feeling like this room feels like whatever it feels.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally relate to that.
and it probably was just in my head, but then that would affect however I was going to behave, and I would always be attuned to the room I was in, like what's happening in this room, how does it feel? And so when she left, I had these two feelings at the same time. One was I could see her, or I don't think I saw her, but I heard her leave the room, and she left the room with this kind of jolly. The teacher was obviously telling her something jokey, and she was out in the hall with a smiley tone.
Right.
And then that made me feel like, oh, everything's good. She's everything, she's everything that she needs to do is in the hall, and it's fun, and we're happy, and like there's no problem. But then a part of me felt like we're in here by ourselves, like we're loose, and I had this kind of chaotic, almost scared feeling. And then I felt I have to get up and stop this from happening. Like someone has to take charge, and I'm gonna be that guy. So I actually stood up and took her pointer, and I stood in front of all the other kindergarten kids, and I started to be the teacher, and I was shaking the pointer at them and telling them, you settle down and you do this and you do that. And I remember pointing at the board, and then one girl said something like, you can't do that, or you can't grab that. And I turned around and I said, you shut up. And I put my pointer at
Right.
And I remember also it was very satisfying because it was a girl that I believe I had asked her to marry me. And her name was Anne Marie. And she
really? The singer?
Anne Marie the singer?
Yeah.
There's a singer named Anne Marie.
Oh, maybe that's
not Anne Murray.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Anne Murray.
In the dead of night.
What?
Isn't it Blackbird? Didn't she sing
Snowbird.
Blackbird? Oh.
Blackbird is the Beatles. This is one of the saddest conversations we've ever had.
Oh my God.
Oh my God is right. No, Anne Marie.
Yeah, okay, Anne Marie.
Dash Marie. That was her first name. I refuse to say her last name. And she ended up with Gordon. I don't know if she's with Gordon now, but she was with Gordon then.
Wow.
And I was frustrated. And so it all came bursting out. I told her, I said, you shut up. And that's, by the way, I think that's an S word back then. I don't think you're allowed to say that. This is 1970. It's kind of like
sucks, back then.
Yeah, you can't say sucks.
You can't
well,
now,
nothing
though.
sucked back then.
Right. Maybe that's why. Everything.
I don't think everything was great, but it wasn't. Nothing sucked yet.
Right.
Didn't suck till later. Anyway, the teacher came back in, and I think I was literally high. Like I was standing there with this yardstick, or it was a pointer stick, the kind that had a little eyelet hook screwed into the bottom and a yellow cap.
I know the one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it felt really nice, and I was in charge, and I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And it wasn't like in school, it was just the idea of I'm up here and you're down there, and this is how important I am right now.
Right.
And when she came in, she went after me. She was not happy. I did everything wrong, and I was in the corner crying, and I remember feeling like, okay, like you're supposed to think I'll never do that again. That was wrong. But all I was thinking in the corner was, why next time, whatever the next time was going to be, but next time it'll be different. I will stay there and I'll never come down. Or I just remember feeling it just made me feel like you can't stop me. That's where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
So, and it wasn't, again, I'm a teacher now, which is ironic.
Well, I was just going to say that.
I know.
That is ironic.
But I did not want to be a teacher ever. I mean, I think that story is well known that I had never planned to be a teacher.
Right.
And from that day on, everybody said, no one ever said to me, you're going to be a pipe fitter, you're going to be an accountant. Right. Everybody said, you're going to be a comedian.
Right.
From zero.
Right.
And I just totally bought into it, and it was just assumed in my head. Like I didn't even know. I don't think what that meant. I knew exactly who I liked. I had Cheech and Chong and George Carlin and Steve Martin and Monty Python from the earliest time that I could get access to those things. And Saturday Night Live, I had access to all that. Mm-hmm. And it was just, that's where it came for me. I'm going to be like that.
And that's where you found your identity. And it's interesting, like I think like our peers would encourage us in things like that, like comedy. You're going to be a comedian. Oh, Mark, you're going to be a musician, right? And then you have this whole other generation that say, oh, no, you can't do that. You've got to be a lawyer or a doctor. Like those aren't real jobs, right?
I didn't have that.
You didn't get that from adults? They all wanted you to be comedians
No,
too?
they would feed into it. This was the thing that was so bad.
Interesting.
I mean, people would come over and visit my mom and dad, and I remember we had these neighbors that lived behind us, and their names are Spence and Lenore. And second wife, Spence and Lenore would come over, and parents back then would sit around, and somebody be smoking, and they'd be having a few drinks or whatever, and then they would get me to do this character called, I think I called him Grandpa Joe or Grandpa Jones,
right?
And I would just do these voices, and this woman Lenore, I remember, would laugh so hard she'd say, "I'm gonna pee my pants, I'm gonna pee my pants," and that would just feed me, and I'd think, I can make this middle-aged woman pee her pants.
So, now that I'm interviewing you as a comedian, take me back to some of your bits back of that.
My bits. I can tell you some of my bits. I could show you too.
I'd love to hear some of those voices.
Well, I can't. I remember one of the earliest things that I did was I stole everything from Bill Cosby.
Right.
So one of the first things I was really young when I learned how to put B. Do you remember the dentist thing? Yeah. He went to the dentist and he came out, and it's a bit where I've never heard it since I was a little kid, actually.
Right.
He goes to the dentist and he comes out and he can't speak correctly because he's had his lip is frozen.
Right.
And I remember he be put babies ibn obel hibs werbers. And I remember the one line at the punchline was, "Oh, but rabbit shabby." So I learned habo tubu poet bibis ibn obel mabi werbers.
Right.
Eben theben I be learned dd's. So do I could put it dd's in almighty words. And then I would do that a whole bit, and then I would put B's and everything, and then I was also obsessed with words, right? And you know that anyway. So words, whenever I would hear a word or say a word or see one written down, did you find it?
Yeah, I got to compare it now.
Really?
So we just heard the Randall Lobb doing his impression.
We
of Bill
didn't
Cosby.
hear me doing it. We heard me talking about it.
We heard him talking about it.
So you have it.
Just to
I have to hear it.
Yeah, I'll just give you some reference.
Dentists tell you not to pick your teeth with any sharp metal object. Then you sit in their chair.
I think you'll have to go through to the end somewhere.
All right.
And the first thing they grab is an iron hook. This is to deaden the pain.
Yeah, it's going to be way later.
Off of your skull. And your bottom lip is in your lap.
Yeah,
So the dentist comes back, you want to talk to him.
Yeah.
So you say, I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
I said it.
So just hit stop there. I literally haven't heard this since I was a kid, and this must have been on an album. Now here's the question: where would I get that album?
Right.
Who gave me that?
Yeah, it would have.
I have no memory.
It would have had to have been on a.
And I had Big Bamboo, Cheech and Chong, so I learned how to do like this Mexican sounding voice. Hey,
right,
man. And I had Class Clown by George Carlin.
Nice.
And I was obsessed with Abbott and Costello, so I knew who's on first, what's on second. I don't know who's on third. Like, and you could name. I even knew like Ajax Liquor Store. I had this old comedy tape. So somebody either I was into it,
right?
Like this as literally as early as I can remember. And there's an older kid that he had a Super 8 video camera or Super 8 movie camera,
right?
And I was obsessed with making Super 8 movies. And it was the son of a doctor in town who lived in this big kind of creepy house, and you could get up on the roof, and then I would do anything to get over there and shoot Super 8 movies. Like
Right.
that's all I want to do. And he would play his Super 8 movies of his trip to Montreal Expo 67. And I was fascinated. So I'd go over and he'd say, you know, well, what are we going to do today? And he was much older than me. He'd say, what are we going to do today? Or whatever, like whatever it was going to be. And he would want to shoot pool, or I don't even know the stuff he wanted to do, but I would always say, I want to see the Montreal 67. And he'd be like, why do you want to see that? And I'd say, just play it. And he didn't want to play it. And I remember this at the same time. He wanted to listen to Fleetwood Mac Rumors or something.
Right.
You know? It wasn't Rumors. It was an album before that, or Simon and Garfunkel.
Right.
So he would get that's what it was. The album was The Sound of Silence.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
Yeah,
he would play that album, and that would be to satisfy him. And then he would play the Super 8 movies of this Montreal 67 Expo thing. And I would sit kind of under and beside his pool table. He had a snooker table in this old smoky smelling bar in his basement.
Right.
And I would watch with utter fascination. And then I would beg him, let's shoot something. So we
Right.
shot movies, you know?
Yeah.
And I was so desperate to do it. Well, that same kid, of course, his older brother, I bet you $1 that's where it came from. He had Monty Python albums that were just
Right.
coming out.
Right.
So as we get into me being 10, 11, and 12, it was Monty Python. And then Steve Martin, Comedy Is Not Pretty, and I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy. And I stayed up and watched Saturday Night Live. And you've heard the Mark Maron podcast. My story is the exact same story as all those people. That you become, like, you know everybody's routine, and you can do everybody's routine. And just like you thinking, I can make this music.
Right.
I was thinking, I can make
Yeah.
older people laugh. I can make
Yeah.
kids my age laugh. And then I was just an asshole in class. I'm sure of it. You know?
Right.
Like, it just was so...
It's interesting how those are the things that shape our lives, you know, at the time. Whether that's, you know, it's debatable whether that's just inherent, like something that's innate within us, that's waiting to come to the surface, or if that's something that's shaped, you know, because of the responses of our peers. We're going, hey, I'm going to find some identity here.
Well, here's what I think. You have the kind of mind that when you, let's say when you hear music, you hear something in that is you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you hear something and you're like, I hear something of me in that, and I can hear something of that in me. You know what I mean? You feel like
absolutely.
There's a bridge that is made. And when I would hear comedy, I would feel like I think that too, whatever it was.
That's right. There's a connection, and I'll take it a step further. I think maybe you have the same thing with comedy, but when you would hear a band, especially live, you would feel like I should be up there, but I want to be up there. Like, let me go up there and do that.
It
You know
is
what I mean?
worse than that. It was worse than that. I would be a little like, and I remember this from being a child. So I probably was in grade 3 specifically with this one. And I remember sitting in the school gym watching a play.
Right.
And I remember saying to the teacher, that boy isn't as funny as me, or whatever it was. It was a play where he had to be, like, it was like he was probably being, in a Christmas something.
Right.
And he was Santa or whatever. And I went up to Miss Johnson and I said, that boy's not as good as me. I should be Santa or whatever.
Right.
She probably thinks, you arrogant little prick.
Sure.
But I'm just thinking, like a kid would think, I'm better than this guy. And then, of course, as soon as I had a chance to be in a play, I realized I'm not good at being in a play.
Right.
And I couldn't handle being in a play. I liked to be on the stage.
Yeah.
And I liked...
And that's probably what appealed to you about the comedian thing, because it's one guy, one microphone.
And I would feel like I didn't want to have to learn lines that, and then other people I'm relying on them, and then I would feel nervous for them. Like, does he know his lines? And I would have to learn everybody's lines, and I'd be so tense up on the stage.
Yeah.
But if I was by myself, like, and I still feel this to this day, and you probably feel the same. When I'm on a stage in front of a group of people, I feel like I outnumber them.
Right.
Like there's more of me than there is of them.
Right.
And it's insane. That's a disease.
Yeah, I don't know if it is a disease. I'm trying to...
Well, you should, not you,
but
we should be so afraid to be up in front of a crowd of people.
Right.
We should be nervous, and that's a very common fear to speak publicly.
And I would say always before on a stage, you feel nervous. But as soon as you hit the stage, and I've always said this my whole life, and that's why you can't get it out of your system, is that when I'm on a stage and doing that thing and I'm in that zone, nothing compares to it. It's one of those places that actually feels safer. And it's not even so much about a crowd or anything. It's just like, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden the crowd or the numbers and all of that sort of becomes irrelevant somehow, because you feel like you're actually, channel is maybe a weird word, but you actually feel like you're entering some kind of other zone. And when you touch that, it's touch that place, whether it's with music or speaking or whatever else, it's kind of a place where you lose yourself. There's very few opportunities in life that allow you that.
You know, the funny thing is, I'm talking about this as if I'm a comedian, but I'm not.
Well, that was good.
How crazy is that?
But maybe, you know, here we are, 40 plus individuals sitting here doing this, and we're talking about, you know, because our lives have taken certain paths.
Well, we're talking about what maybe should have been. Or
yeah,
what would
exactly.
have been.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
Right. It's like, so we're reminiscing on, and maybe that is back to your original question. That's what drives us.
That is the original
to sit here in front of these cameras with all this gear.
Well, it's crazy.
And talking microphones with the hope or the thought that maybe someone's going to find it entertaining.
But then the ultimate realization is you're doing it for yourself.
Right.
See, what I'm thinking is happening is we have earbuds in, and we hear our own voices amplified and magnified, and that's almost in effect what you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're just in it for the tea. We're just in it for the earbuds and
it's
the
for
sound
the
of our
playback
voices through
of yourself.
Yeah, and to listen to it. Do you listen to the podcast?
No. It's not that I didn't listen to it. I'm just too busy, and I've told you this before.
But do you enjoy listening to it?
I probably would.
Yeah.
But the rate...
I definitely do. Like,
oh, do you?
Yeah. So, like, a lot of people are, I can't listen to me. I can't see myself on
Johnny
television.
Depp never watches
like,
his
you
movies.
know, I'm also in a band. Some of you know that, Boy in December, and we just finished a song, and I've probably played that song like 10 times because I like to listen to.
Oh, it's a good song.
Myself.
Yeah.
I know it's a good song too.
It's catchy.
But I like to listen to myself, or if I'm speaking somewhere, I like to hear the playback. I like to watch the video.
We should say people can go and hear that song, right? They could go and listen.
Yeah,
to it.
they could. If you want to check out another one of the FauxPop podcasts, it's the Boy in December podcast. And you can get it a couple ways. You can go to iTunes and search for Boy in December, or you can go to www.boyindecember.com. And the video version and the audio version are both there. And we've been making that song over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And now we're tracking it.
It sounds great. It's very catchy.
Well, and I should say that Randall Lopp here has been working as a
little
producer
on
the project. So
a little bit. I think that the thing that we're kind of talking about here is, I shouldn't say about you. For me, I think there's a deficit. Like there's something missing. And I know you have the thing that I'm missing, and that's some kind of internal satisfaction from the things that you do. And I know I don't have that. Like when I'm, like right now, one of the things that I do now is I'm a writer.
Right.
And so I have a couple projects in telefilm at the first or second draft stage. So, and for people that don't know what that means, is you write a screenplay, and then with a producer that you apply to telefilm, which is the Canadian it's the Canadian film funding body or whatever. And they give you incentives to try and stimulate the Canadian film industry. And I'm very happy and lucky, and you know, it's great to have 2 projects in telefilm, and then you have to do many drafts, and hopefully, you know, we'll go on to get something made, and we have a director with one that I can't say who it is or whatever. But the point I'm getting at is, the reason why I mention that is because I say that because I don't get any satisfaction from it. Like I don't feel like, and what I felt like in my whole life is I would think, oh, if I could just get to this place, and then I'll feel satisfied. If I could just get an article in that magazine, then I'll feel satisfied.
Right.
And we've talked about this a million times. Mm-hmm. Then you get an article in that magazine, and guess what? Well, if I could just get it in, and it's like you're always jumping rock to rock.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I will say, as much as you know what I was saying, like I like to listen to the thing over and over again or whatever. I will say that it's, you know, that only lasts a very, very short time, and then you're sick of it and want the next thing, right? So it's kind of like the same as what you're talking about. Like nothing truly satisfies. It's not even so much the stuff that we create that is the satisfaction. It's the creation process. You know, just like right now is probably more entertaining to us just sitting here doing this than actually the final result, the podcast.
Yeah, well, I think it's very selfish what we're doing in a way, but that's okay.
It is okay.
But for me, the thing that and again it frustrates me about you is like even when you do something like you get everything hooked up and you get your setup right and you feel satisfaction,
Yeah,
I never
true.
feel that satisfaction.
Right.
Like when I'm doing a job, I don't get to the end of that job. Like let's say I've written a draft and I get to the end of that draft, my feeling of satisfaction literally lasts 22 seconds.
Right.
And when we're working with story editors or something, and she'll say to me, so what do you think, Randall? How do you like this draft? Are you happy with it? And like I literally can't answer the question. Like it doesn't, and I say to her, it doesn't apply. Like I can't afford to do that. And I read something recently about that where people say that, I think it was in the Joe Rogan podcast, a guy named Brian Iffy or something was saying, Angelica Houston had a quote, you don't want to give too much and you don't want to take too much, or I've totally ruined the quote, but you don't want to believe people when they tell you tons of good things because then you'll have to believe them when they tell you tons of bad things.
Right.
So you'll defend yourself against that.
Right.
So I'll defend myself against feeling satisfied with something so that later, if it sucks, I'm protected.
Sure.
So if someone says, hey, do you love that new screenplay you wrote? If I said yes, that sets me up to feel disappointed if it doesn't pan out.
I think what you just touched on there too is also the thing about creativity. Like when you're creating original things, like you're not a cover band, you're not
interpreting someone
You're not
else's
interpreting
work.
something else. You're doing your own thing.
Right.
There's a safety in that you know what I mean. No matter what, it's your thing. You know what I'm trying to
You're
say.
saying that you can always say, well, I'm doing the thing that's of
that's
me.
right. Well, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. This is
Right.
what I do.
This is for
You know?
us. I don't get that. I don't have that.
No, but I wonder if that deep down that is like something. You know that why.
Well, I know that I know you get it because you're playing in a band,
Right?
And you've said this before that even if you're playing for a small audience, you are satisfied for your experience.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that to me, that's the best way to be.
But the part about the protection is the fact that we're doing our own thing.
Oh, you're protected by saying
we're
that.
protected. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. So you're never going to feel the emotion of, oh, that guy didn't like it or that guy didn't. It doesn't matter because I'm doing my own thing. Now, if I'm doing a cover of a Rush song and it sucks, then there's legitimacy to that. So I just won't do that cover. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I don't think I have that. I think probably if I was to tell the truth, I am likely someone who, at my root, I want someone to like the stuff so that I don't have to like it or not like it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's like I don't care enough about my opinion. It's so weird because I don't have an internal guide.
Sure.
And I probably was that kid who walk up to the teacher with the Thanksgiving turkey in kindergarten and say, "What do you think of my turkey? How do you like my turkey?" And then she'd be like, not giving me enough. So I think, okay, fine.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if I like my turkey.
Yeah.
You tell me so I can decide.
Right. It's interesting because I think both of us fancy ourselves as people that opinions don't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We would both say that.
Yeah.
But deep down, yeah.
Probably not.
The subtext of
Probably
this is
not true.
we actually care a hell of a lot.
More than somebody who cares.
Yeah.
That's probably the reality.
That might be the reality, actually.
So distressing. Well, I mean, you think about, and again, I keep popping back to being a little kid because that's when it all gets brought up.
Right.
You want to make someone laugh. I wonder if, and I think, again, I've heard this from other people, you control how they laugh at you.
Right.
Like if people laugh at you out of your control, that hurts.
Right.
But if you're controlling how they laugh,
That's a
it
good
doesn't
point.
hurt.
That's right.
You decided. I made you laugh. You didn't
Right.
laugh at me because I'm fat or stupid or ugly or I did something stupid in class. You
Right.
laughed at me because I did it. So I am now controlling. And I know I'm a control freak.
Right.
I'm a very controlling, manipulative person. And I'll admit that. And there's no other way around it. So probably there's some sense of that. So standing in front of a crowd of people, when I'm ever doing that, I'm feeling like, okay, now I'm controlling how the crowd works. If I'm sitting in a crowd, I feel tense.
Right. I'm the same way.
It's so silly.
Yeah. You just want to be up there because you did. Yeah. We're both exactly the same way. And I wonder if some of that control or whatever comes to the fact that both of us are the eldest in our families.
Maybe.
Like there's a certain element of, you have to lead, is sort of a responsibility that's put on you, right? Just from being born first.
Well, that's what happened to you. You see, we are very different. Even though you think we're similar, we are very different because you accept responsibility and I shirk responsibility, I think, in a way.
I don't know, man.
Well, I know what happened when my sister was born. That's something that I should tell people here. And you and I have talked about this indirectly. I have, whether it's true or not, I can't say, but I have a near photographic memory from my childhood.
Right.
And you say you don't remember much of your childhood.
No, I'm totally opposite that way.
I literally remember the feeling of my sister being born, and I was 2. And what I remember is feeling totally betrayed. And I remember feeling like I lost something. And
right.
I mean, my sister would say that I'm a bitter person to some degree, or she would say that she felt hostility from me her whole life.
Right.
Or a distance or a coldness. And that's, probably for a number of reasons true to some degree. I don't dislike my sister. But what is probably true is that I felt like I had things that were taken from me and then were shared. And
right.
by their sharing of them, then they weren't for me anymore. And I was probably a bitter, selfish, conceited, like all children are, creature. And then I felt like I lost something. And now I'm spending a lifetime trying to get it back from everybody else around me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want you to look at me, Mom. Like that
right,
kind
right,
of.
Right, yeah.
And so that's...
Yeah,
every kid must do that. You must have done it.
I imagine,
brothers and sisters.
I imagine so, though I don't recall. And maybe it was more that actually drove me to be more reclusive and have my own space and my own quiet times.
And be satisfied with that.
And be satisfied with
that.
that.
And I was never satisfied with that.
Because you almost had to escape from the madness sometimes, because having 8 brothers and sisters.
Well, there's no question.
It's pretty crazy. Yet, as time goes on, it's the most awesome thing. But I can remember times being so embarrassed, and not of my parents or brothers or sisters or anything necessarily, but you're at a certain age where, imagine 7 kids going into a restaurant, right?
Oh, I wouldn't have been able to
take it. And I'm 12
it.
years old.
I know.
And I'm just starting to feel maybe a bit cool, or you're in that awkward
stage.
And
you're self-conscious anyway.
And I apologize, Mom and Dad, for the many, many times I would say, you know what, you guys go in, I'm just going to sit in the van and read a comic book. I wouldn't even go in.
I totally understand that feeling. I have that feeling now as a dad. I say to the kids and my wife, I say, why don't you guys go in? And I'm kidding, of course.
Right.
But
yeah,
I just was going to say that. And
I would much rather sit in the car, even to this day, and listen to a podcast or listen to something all by myself. I get so much satisfaction out of that.
You're not embarrassed by your family.
God, no.
We're joking.
No, I'm not embarrassed
by my family. It's when
you're
a kid and you can't deal with that scrutiny of everybody.
That's right.
And again, let's go back to what I said. So what am I trying to do? Control the scrutiny.
Right.
I'm trying to dictate how it is played out.
Yeah. So it's like we're those kids hiding in the van or whatever, and we're trying to find that way to get on top of all of that. And probably the same kind of thing was happening in school, because both of us had a little bit of maybe insecurity with our appearance and different things. So we had to find.
I think we can say flat out we were fat.
We were some chubbiness.
70s fat, not 2000s fat.
No, 70s fat.
70s fat. That was a bit for everybody at home who's not from the time period we're from. When you're fat in 1975, that's very different than being fat in 2011.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah, like that's half the size.
But probably this thing that's the same for both is that when it's time to go swimming, we always have a sunburn.
The way you feel. You tell that story. Tell the story.
What one?
When you went to a pool party or something?
Oh, that happened many times, where it was just like, everybody's saying, okay, we're going swimming now, and all these guys that are fit pull off their shirts, and I was always, I've got a sunburn. I don't think I'm the only kid that was fat that would use that excuse.
No.
I got to leave my shirt on. My mommy said, I've got a sunburn. Yeah.
I made up a dumber reason than that.
True, that was lily white.
I said I had a boil. I said I have a boil. I said, what?
Can we see it?
That's what they said. Yeah. It's so weird, eh?
Yeah.
And from total self-consciousness and from a total lack of confidence about yourself, me,
right,
came confidence.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that should encourage people, actually, if anything, part of this podcast is we're realizing, okay, well, here we are, we've reached the halfway point, like we established last week, right? So it's like maybe we can tell our stories. And I know you're not sitting there going, yeah, that you care about it so much as a deeper meaning thing, but for me, I'm thinking, maybe this will help encourage that kid that's 12 years old to realize, you know what? Because when they see Mark and Randall, they go, those guys look pretty confident. They actually
look awesome. Yeah, one thing I do notice is that 12-year-old boys look up to us. They do totally respect us, and they think, "I wish I could be like that."
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand that I'm kidding, right?
Oh, no, it's absolutely true.
There's nothing that a 12-year-old boy hates more than you and I. We are the enemy.
I don't know.
I think that kids look at how dare your child speak up like that? How dare?
I can hear.
Sounds like we're in the chimpanzee park.
Yeah.
If there is such a thing. Is there a chimpanzee park? That would be a terrifying.
Probably is somewhere.
Chimpanzees are frightening to me.
They are.
They just make me feel scared.
It's because they're so much like us.
I don't think you and like us specifically.
Yeah.
I don't think that children look at stuff that we do and learn from us. They can only learn from themselves. They might learn later in retrospect.
Sure.
Like they might actually pick up granules of things that are useful. But I don't think they can contextualize and appreciate and understand that they've learned something from someone because they have a certain resistance, which we had ourselves.
Absolutely.
Like when somebody would say to me, when I was your age, I'd always think, oh my God, you were never my age and I will never be like you. And you just think that you're such an independent, single, like you're the only one of you that there is. And it's true, but it's also false. Like, you're trotting a very, you're walking a very well-trodden path is what I wanted to say.
Right.
Sadly. Are you looking at the clock?
Well, we are getting close.
Yeah, we're getting close to the time.
45-minute end of this chat.
I'm pretty sure that we didn't necessarily cover the ground that we anticipated covering today.
No, well, I don't know. It just ebbed and flowed from that original thought, and it came back, kept coming back.
We brought
around.
It back.
Yeah, many times. I think it was very well planned.
Oh, you think? Thank you. You did a nice job following the script I wrote of your childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty nice. Did it come off as like I was name dropping in telefilm?
No. I think it's important.
Well, I was just trying to establish.
The important thing about all of those stories that we were talking about from the 80s is that we're still doing those things now.
Exactly the same. And I'm still not satisfied.
Don't give up is our story, is our message.
The thing that I think
or there's things that you'll never be able to give up.
That's what I'm going to say. You're never done.
Yeah.
Like when it's like this. What is the point at which you made whatever it is you need to make? What is it that is happening?
Yeah, it never happens.
Like I picture some guy who works in a factory or whatever, and he's building cars at home, and he goes home every day to build his car. When he's done that car, he's going to build another car. You know
That's
what I mean?
right. Yeah.
And his job is just a way of getting to the thing he wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what we're doing is even when we're doing something like this, or even if you're playing music, you're actually just trying to get something that you're trying to do, whatever it is. I don't even know.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's that elusive thing.
Even if it's a fun and interesting job, you're still trying to get to something.
Yeah, and I think, to encourage everybody listening, no matter what your job is, because sometimes...
Just wait, you're going to encourage both of them?
I'm going to encourage both of them. But I often get from people like, oh, you've got the dream job. Do you ever
Who says that?
People say, because they think,
Because you're your own boss some of the time?
Yeah, some of the time you're your own boss and you're working on creative things all the time. But the truth is, I enjoy working with all of this kind of stuff, and you enjoy teaching, which is similar to being a stand-up comedian.
Well, if you were going to be a dime store psychologist, you would be able to draw a direct line.
I'm sure, right?
You'd say you're playing out your kindergarten problem.
So all I was really trying to say with all of that is that everybody, no matter what you're doing, if you just sit back for a few minutes and do a podcast with your friends,
like everybody should,
right? You'll realize that, hey, we're all kind of the same here, and we're all still doing
hustler line.
We're all still doing things, reaching for some of those things that we aspired to when we were younger, and whether we became a plumber or a doctor or a lawyer or a podcast FauxCast king.
What I was getting at by pointing out the guy who works at the factory is he's one, or let's say an added layer away from what he wants to do.
Right. You just said it better. That's what Randall Lobb's good at, taking this blah that I'm trying to say and putting it into one sentence. What you just said.
We're just trying to make some of the job that we do be closer to us fixing the cars.
Yeah, that's good.
You're trying to get closer as opposed to...
Absolutely.
And whether we're actually going to fix those cars up or not, I don't know. And again, remember, he'll just do another car when he's done.
Right. Yeah. So
we're never going to be done.
No.
We're never going to get what
let's all be happy and let's all keep working.
Dude. I just said, dude. I think we just realized enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
Oh no. Platitudes at the end. Enjoy the ride, people. Okay, well that looked like episode 7.
Yeah.
Lucky 7.
Lucky number 7.
Next one is 8, and in China, 8 is the luckiest number of all.
Interesting.
So think about that, folks. All right, if you have any questions, comments, or criticisms, I would say you could send them to what would they send it
Probably
to?
send them to content@FauxPop.tv.
So that's content, or content.
Or content.
Content at FauxPop.tv.
Yeah.
Or you can come by the website and leave a little comment like a few people have. Special thanks to those people who've left some comments.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's right. If you go to the website, you'll be able to do... let me just...
Look at him. What do you want me to... You're going to put it up there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right now, he gets on these wavelengths where he's got to do something, and he's going to put up the email on the site. I think that when I say that we had 2 fans, and I don't even know that they're fans, I'm kidding, of course. There are more people that check it out, but there's something that you want to underplay. We don't want to make people think that we think that everyone will like this, because we're kind of Protestant North Americans. We don't want to play it too hard. You know what I mean?
There it is, folks.
There you go. There it is. Content at FauxPop.tv. If you're listening to the audio, you have no idea that Mark just put up a super on the... There it is again. It looks great.
Oh, awesome, man.
Well, thanks for sticking around. Sorry about at the end how we kind of lost the thread as we were...
No, I think it was actually really, really good, and we'll continue this dialogue. And
do you think you'll enjoy this when you listen to it later?
I probably will.
Will you write in a fan letter?
I might.
Nice.
I might.
I look forward to answering your fan letter. All right, thanks for coming out or staying in. Thanks for staying in, everybody. We'll catch you on the next installment. And remember, lucky number 8. You might want to buy a lottery ticket and fulfill all your dreams.
Yeah.
If you were paying attention, you realize that's the opposite of what we were just saying. Even if you win the lottery, you'll still be doing the thing that you're doing, whatever it is.
Man, that's deep. Who would have known? Who would have thought?
Well, I'm everything but deep.
I disagree.
I remember how I started bringing back, I said later skater.
Right.
And then I brought back catch you on the flip.
Yeah.
What's another
In
one
fact,
of those?
I thought you were going to say catch me on the flip.
I know you did.
But you didn't know.
What's another one of those that we used to say like in the 70s or early 80s that would be like...
Well,
I don't want to see you later, alligator. That's kind of 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Is there another one like that?
I do say that. I'm trying to think.
There used to be a whole bunch of them.
Later skater.
If anybody knows any of those old ways of saying goodbye that were cool in like right around the time that Cars was popular, the Cars, that band,
right?
Not the TV or the whatever.
I know.
Pixar
I've
movie.
been finding myself saying, "That's hunky dory" lately.
Hunky dory,
yeah,
nice.
Hunky dory.
Good David Bowie album too.
Yeah.
Well, I like to bring back dumb sayings. Like, do you remember for a while when I was saying toodaloo or toodles?
Right, toodles. Yeah.
Toodles. Like, I like to bring toodaloo. I hated when my mom used to say that. Toodaloo. And I'd think, oh, don't say that.
Right.
But now you bring it back. Well, I want one of those. I want a new one.
Or I'll say to my little girl, instead of going, wow, we'll go, hokey doodle.
Hokey doodle.
Hokey doodle.
Do you think we should just make up our own goodbye?
Why don't we?
We'll try and start that up. Okay, let me think of what would be a good one.
Happy trails.
That's totally original, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that's been used.
Okay, we'll use that one. Let's try it, see how it works.
Happy trails to
you. even wrote a little song for it.
Yeah, I made it up. I'm making it up right now.
Awesome. Guys, you didn't know, but he's that musical.
Happy trails.
Okay, so open yourself a can of beans. put it on the fire,
Keep
have some cowboy coffee, take off your boots, look for scorpions. Why don't you relax on a stump? Or I guess there wouldn't be stumps out there on the range.
All right, so
I don't know if we can do that. I think we just broke some rules. We just broke some rules, didn't we?
we'll just fade it. You get
20
something
seconds?
like 13 seconds.
All right, get it out of there.
Fading out.
Toodles.
Keep smiling.